After you find a green temple and before you request ordinances and print a card, give your ancestor an interview. We can remember the steps to the interview process by using the acronym CARD. C stands for Correct and Complete Vital Information. A, Analyze family relationships. R, Review sources. And the D reminds us that duplicates should be solved. Giving an interview ensures duplicate work is not performed, helps you know and love the person you are serving, causes your ancestors' information to be more complete and reliable, and causes us to view the individuals we serve as real people rather than names. Let me illustrate the interview process. I've used the descendancy view to find some green temples, and those tell me that these people may need ordinances. So I'm going to take some time to work with this couple, Albert Henry Westmoreland and Ada Bell Johnson. If I click on their names, their cards will appear, and I can see that most of his ordinances have either been done or are in the process of being done. However, his wife, if I click on her name, she doesn't have as much information, and all of her ordinances appear to need to be done. So I am going to try to get them so that they are sealed. You'll notice that Albert still needs to be sealed to his wife, even though the rest of his ordinances have been done. The process that I would use is to open the person page of the individual and then begin to conduct the interview using those steps that are mentioned in the card. I'm going to check for the correctness and completeness of the information that we have on them. You'll notice as we look here, we've got a nice birth date but no birthplace. We've got a nice death date and death place. So all we want initially here is to see if we can find a birthplace. What you can do is to begin to look for these records over here in record hints, and it could be that the marriage record would have a birth date for Albert. We see that here he is, and we've got a marriage date built into this. We've got his birth date here, but we don't have a birthplace listed on this source. So if we go to the California Death Index, we have him being born in the same exact date, and in addition we have a birthplace for him, which is Missouri. So I would want to add this source to his profile. What happens is on the left the California Death Index comes up, and on the right my information comes. I've got Albert Henry Westmoreland, 1875 to 1956. I've got his death date being exactly the same, his birth date with the new birthplace. And so I'm going to say here, verifies birth and death information, and attach it. As long as I've got these other sources for his parents, I'll just change this to say relationship information and attach. Since they're mentioned in the record, they don't have as much information about them, but I might as well attach the source. Now when I go back to Albert Henry, I can now add his birthplace to his birth date. I merely edit it. The date is correct, but the birthplace I want to put as Missouri. The computer says you want to have Missouri, United States. I say yes. The found in the California Death Index is correct information, and so I'm just going to leave that as is. Now that piece of information that I didn't have, I've added a source. There used to be one source, which was the county marriage information. I've added the California Death Index. Between these two sources, I have proved all three dates for Albert: his birth date, his death date, and his marriage date. Now, as I come up here, you'll notice that it says I've got a data problem, which is that I'm missing a standardized marriage date. And so if I come down here and open up this, the marriage date looks pretty good, but I'm going to edit it, and when I edit it, for some reason the computer's not recognizing what we've got here. It might be that we have a space in the front or something, but I'm going to go ahead and put my cursor at the end of the and then add a space, and the computer will say, how about 24 December 1913? I do it, now it's standardized, and what the computer is saying is, I can read your date so that I can go out and use this information to search for sources for you. So I'm just going to put in here standardized, and then I will save it, close that, get out of here. It doesn't really look any different, but that data problem is gone, and I now have good information on his birth with proof, good information on his death with proof, and good information on his marriage with proof. So I have checked for the correct and completed information. Now I'm going to analyze his family. I look, and I've got a wife. I don't have any children. I wouldn't mind finding some children and adding them if they had some. But he's got one set of parents and some brothers and sisters. That's a nice family makeup. It doesn't appear that I've got mistakes built into it. I've now got two sources, and those prove all of the information that I've alleged above. Now if I added some children, I would probably want to have a source like a census record that would prove that the children live there. I don't see any sources that are here's a census record in 1940. If I look at that, I can see they're too old to have their children at home at that stage, and so this would be a good one for me to attach. I've got Ada and Albert, but I'm not going to take the time to do that with you right now. So I'm going to say that I've got enough information that I'm going to feel comfortable taking him to the temple. I'll check for possible duplicates, and it looks like I've got two possible duplicates. I want to show you something before I actually do this merge. If I go to Ada Bell and open her person page and begin the interview for her, you can see that I'm going to want to find a birthplace for her. I want to find a death date if I can. But look down here. I have Albert Henry Westmoreland and Albert Henry Westmoreland. She has two of the same husbands that she's married to. We're going to need to merge these two men. And so I wanted to just show you that as we analyzed her family, it wouldn't have been as clean, and we would have said, oh, there's a problem here. She didn't marry the same guy twice, or two different people with the same name. And so we want to get them merged. I'll show you how to do that quickly. I've come back to our Albert Henry, and I'll go over to his possible duplicates. This is where we were just a second ago. And you'll notice that this Albert Henry has Ada Bell as a wife. This Albert Henry has John and Lucy as parents. And so we want to merge all three of them into one person. I'll review here. My person is on the left, that other person is over here on the right. If I wanted to, if this person had a whole bunch more information, I could switch positions. So I'm going to scroll down, same name, same sex. This one doesn't have a birth date. This one has deceased for death, so my person's death date is much better. I come to the spouse. The spouse is the same. You'll notice the number LW3P, LW3P, and so I don't need to worry about bringing her across. If she had a different number, I would bring her across and then merge her with the person that's here. And so everything's good. I'm going to continue the merge. I'm going to say the reason that I'm merging is that they had the same names, dates, and relationships. And then I finish the merge. Now at that point, my Albert has been mixed with one of the two people, but I still have the other one. So I'm going to come here, I'm going to review the merge, and I come down this time, same name, same sex, the birth date is the same, and the death is deceased. Other information, it says that it had a custom event, which is there was a census record. I'll go ahead and run that over. I've got the parents And you'll notice these parents have the same number, and so those are the same people. We don't want to worry about anything there. I'm going to go ahead and continue. I'm going to say same names, dates, and relationships. And then I'm going to finish the merge. I've now taken 3 different versions of the same person and put them all into the one person. So now if I come back over to Ada Bell Johnson and look at her, a minute ago when we had her, she had 2 husbands. Now she only has the one. And so as I analyze her family, I can see that she's got parents. She's the only child right now. Probably there are other children in the family, but she's got the husband correct, and she has no children. I wouldn't mind adding brothers and sisters and children perhaps before I take her to the temple, or at some point down the road. Now Ada has a problem that we have no sources. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to check about completing and correcting information here. Since I have a birth but no birthplace, I'm going to go ahead and see, I don't know which one of these two, the California County marriages, they maybe are both the exact same. I've got the marriage date, and then I've got, this is for Albert, and his birth date is 1875, but her birth date is 1879. And we've got the parents. This doesn't have a place that it doesn't tell us where she was born, and that's disappointing. This census record will give that to us. I'm going to go ahead and quickly attach this just because we want to have the proof for the marriage date. And so again, on the left side will come up the historical record that we're attaching, which is a California County marriage record, and our information on the right. I'm going to say verifies birth and marriage information, and then I'm going to attach it. I'll go ahead and attach this to Albert, bring the marriage across. The marriage was already there, but I'll attach that. And then the parents, this doesn't verify birth and marriage, it verifies relationship information. I'll attach that, and I'll attach it to mom as well. Then I'm going to come back to Ada. All that we got with that source that we attached was the marriage information. And the marriage information is important, but we want to still find, if we can, a birthplace and a death place. So we'll go ahead and use this, and the what it tells us is that Ada is with her husband here, and Ada was born in Indiana. So that's the reason that we like the census record, is that it tells us pretty closely on the birth year. A lot of times census records are notoriously off by a year or so, but the important thing that we wanted was the Indiana verification of where she was born. So I'm going to say verifies birth information. I will attach it. I'll go ahead and attach to Albert as well this census record and where he lived in these times. Attach it. I'll come back to Ada now, and what we want to do with the information that we just acquired is that we want to add to the birth the place. And so we'll put Indiana. The computer will say Indiana, United States. I click on it, and then I say verified on census record. I go ahead and save it. Now Ada has good birth date and place. I don't have a death date yet, and I don't see anything that this California County marriages won't give me death information. I could come over here and click on Ancestry and go there quickly to see if there's a chance that there's something with Ada Bell Johnson in a U.S. find a grave, but Lulu Bell Johnson probably isn't Ada. Ada M. Johnson probably isn't, and so sometimes right off the bat, Ancestry will give you something easy. You can change some of the fields and the filters, and maybe you can get lucky there. I check for just a very quick, easy find. If I don't find it, I don't feel guilty that I didn't get a record or prove this piece of information. I've got enough that I've got a good birth, a good place and date, and if I don't have both places and dates, I can live with that. So as I look here, I've now got two sources where I had none. I'll check for possible duplicates. There aren't any. And so now I'm ready. I've given both of them an interview. I'll go ahead and come to ordinances, click on it, and she's ready to have her work done. It's interesting to note that because we combined Henry and those three people, he had already been sealed to his wife even though she hadn't received her ordinances yet. So we don't need to have the sealing to spouse anymore, it's just individual to her. I'll request the ordinances, and what's interesting is we've got her parents and added in there, but I haven't interviewed them yet, and so I'm not going to go ahead and request them. I need to go and interview them before I take them to the temple. So I simply am going to do Ada Bell Johnson. I'll request it. The rules for the church: don't take famous people, don't do Jewish Holocaust victims, make sure they're your relatives, make sure that if they were born in the last 110 years, you have the permission of the nearest relative. All of those things work for me. I comply. I click Add to Temple Ordinance List. I can now print her card from here, or I can go up to the temple, view the all reserved list. Ada Bell will be the first person that will appear in my list. As soon as she comes up, I can go ahead and print her card from this area as well as the other one.